Coming up on this episode of Murky Seb's Wild Underwater Adventures. On today's adventure, we are travelling to investigate the creeks in and around the Lake Samsonvale area. Located about 45 minutes north of Brisbane City, Lake Samsonvale is split between an urban and rural environment. We will be comparing the differences between the rivers in each environment, so let's get murky. You never know what you'll find when you're driving down mountain roads in southeast Queensland. We just saw this little creek as we were passing over this bridge, and so we decided to stop and have a look. So far it looks promising. Look how beautiful this area is. It's full of nice plants, the water's nice and clear. It's a good sign that there might be some aquatic life in here for us to have a look at. So let's get in there and see what's living in this little creek. This first plant growing in the fast-flowing water is possibly a species of hydrocotyle. Red algae like these are relatively uncommon in fresh water, like the stream we're in. I think they almost look like a type of coral or seaweed. We just got our first glimpse of some fast-moving gudgeons that zoomed by the camera. Hopefully we will encounter some more that stick around a little bit longer. Unfortunately, this poor carpet python has been murdered. Judging by the puncture wound to its head, I'm guessing somebody shot it. A very sad sight, as these snakes are no threat to people and are very peaceful and beneficial to have around, as they're responsible for eating lots of rats and mice. I looked on the map and noticed there was a stream nearby, so we pulled over to investigate. This tiny pool was very clear, and I could see something moving around in there, so I decided to get out my camera and see what could it be. And unfortunately, I was greeted by these invasive fish known as gambusia. They don't belong in Australian rivers, as they are native to the southeastern United States waterways. They were introduced to Australia in the 1920s because of their reputation to control mosquitoes. However, they aren't any better at controlling mosquitoes as many native species that already do an excellent job of controlling mosquitoes. They outcompete and eat native wildlife and their eggs, resulting in them taking over certain waterways entirely. They are a very similar species to guppies, which are a popular aquarium fish. It's vital to never release fish into rivers, as they can have a devastating effect on the native creatures. Although they're quite a beautiful fish, they just don't belong in Australian rivers. And in a pool like this, the conditions are clearly perfect for little native fish to survive in as well, but I didn't manage to see any in this particular pool. I decided to go investigate up further along the river, and I came across this little spider floating on the surface. I'm not sure if they're a species of water spider hunting or they're just a spider trying to get across the creek. But look how well they float. I also found an interesting species of moss and the shell of a crayfish. Hopefully, if we're lucky, we can find the crayfish it came from. This cool moss is possibly a variety of Physidin. However, I'm not sure as I've never encountered it before, so let me know if you are a moss expert and can identify this species. Hiding amongst the moss is a top aquatic predator that one day will turn into a beautiful flying insect called a dragonfly. When they are at this stage of their life cycle, they're called nymphs. What a great name for such a spooky creature. They will wait patiently, hiding in substrate or on plants, and spring onto their unsuspecting prey, which consists of anything small enough for them to grab a hold of. They can spend a maximum of 5 years as a nymph before molting their outer shell and growing bigger and bigger until eventually crawling out of the water and finding a safe place to shed their shell, grow wings, and become a beautiful but deadly dragonfly. There was another river on the map nearby, so we went to investigate it and were pleasantly surprised by the clear blue water. There were some very large plants growing under the surface. It's hard to gauge how deep this pool is, but it's at least 5 meters in the middle. And there was so much algae growing here, with hardly any shrimp to eat all of it. It's quite an unusual sight. This amount of algae could be a result of runoff from the farms that line the riverbank that would also explain the lack of underwater life. Doesn't it make a spooky scene? All this lovely blue water with these large plants, all covered in what looks like spider webs made from algae with hardly any creatures moving about. The water looks so beautiful. It was clear and there were lots of plants in this deep pool. Look at the way this algae overhangs the rocks. I think it was a particularly beautiful area and I'm glad that we stopped to have a look. We found another cool looking spot by the side of the road. So we pulled over and we're going to have a look at what's living here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of plants in the background. So that's a really good sign. Hopefully that means there'll be lots of shrimp and lots of fish that will feed off the shrimp. So let's have a look at what's in this particular river. In this deep pool, I couldn't see any movement at all, but we'll get to have a look in there shortly. On the other side of the road, I could see a few of these awesome glass shrimp. They get the name glass shrimp because you can see right through their transparent bodies. It's always a delight to see glass shrimp. They are one of my favorite creatures. This darker one is a female and she has some eggs under her abdomen, which is covered in little paddles that fan the eggs to keep them oxygenated and free from debris. The eggs will stay on her until they're ready to hatch, then the tiny little shrimp will go off and try their best to survive without the safety of mum. There were some long-armed shrimp hiding under the rocks and logs as well. They are similar to glass shrimp, but have a much larger body and claws that can be several times as long as their body. These little shrimp were as interested in my camera as I was interested in them. But I got too close and they darted away. You can just see one little fish swimming away, possibly a type of gudgeon. And under this big rock overhang, there were some long-armed shrimp hiding, but they were quite hard to see because of how dark it is. You just get a glimpse of them at the end there. This was a really beautiful area, and people obviously come swimming here, as we could tell by a rope swing going into this deep pool. I was fascinated to see what might be living amongst the roots in this pool, and I had no idea what I was about to find. These appear to be Australian bass, which have a similar appearance to estuary perch, and being closely related to them. But perch tend to live in estuary environments, and the bass are mostly a freshwater species. Bass vary in colour from metallic gold in clear sandy rivers to a bronzy green colour in streams with darker environments. They don't grow very big on average, being around half a kilo and between 20 and 30 centimetres in length. However, they can get up to 3 kilos and be 55 centimetres long in the southern waters. They range from Bundaberg in Queensland all the way down through New South Wales into Victoria. Bass are a very slow growing species, with one being confirmed to have lived in the Genoa River system for 47 years. They have been commonly found to be between 19 and 29 years old, and the females are unable to breed until they reach 5 to 6 years of age. So it's really important not to kill these amazing fish so we can ensure their survival as a species. The larger and therefore older the female get, the more eggs she can lay in one sitting. And a very large female was recorded having up to 1.4 million eggs, which get trapped in seagrasses and other vegetation. The eggs then hatch in 2 to 3 days, and the babies migrate into the freshwater streams after spending several months in the salty water. I said bass are mostly a freshwater species, but in order to breed, they have to migrate down into the saltwater estuaries. They migrate as far up and down the rivers as they can go throughout the year, so it's quite amazing we found these ones, as there isn't a clear path into the sea. They have to pass by a dam wall in order to make it to the ocean. And because of dams, land clearing for farming, humans deliberately killing this slow growing fish and other human obstructions, the bass has greatly declined as a species. So it's really important to try not to catch these struggling underwater friends. The females tend to move further up the rivers than the males to stop running out of their food supplies, as they tend to live in large groups, and their diet consists mostly of insects like cicadas, crustaceans, fly larvae, and small fish. However, they will try to eat just about anything, and mice, lizards, and frogs are often on the menu for these fierce hunters. There are also some really cool rocks along this riverbed, so I stopped to have a look at them before heading home. I hope you enjoyed coming along on this adventure and learning about these awesome creatures and the environment they call home. Until next time, keep it murky.